Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Coach Johnson's YouTube channel. We talk about the power raid, the air raid, and the coaching profession in general. So today, you're going to kind of get back into a little bit more of organizational type stuff, and we're going to talk about our practice plan and then drawing up some of the drills that we do. Because I had an opportunity to talk on the Blue and Gold podcast, and also as we were filling in and bringing our new coaches up to speed about how we're going to transition from going spring to summer, some of the advancement of our drills and really working on competitiveness. So anyways, hope you enjoy this video. I'm really big on trying to make sure that everything is organized as possible, especially when you're bringing in a bunch of newer coaches. They're not new to the profession, but they are definitely new to how we do things. And obviously people have questions on how we kind of do that. So kind of starting off with what we do with our receivers and our quarterbacks pre-practice, we do our settle news. So we'll have one guy right here and another right there. We'll have our center, and so he gets a bunch of snaps, and our quarterback. And so we'll have a bunch of guys. We'll split into the amount of quarterbacks that we have in our receivers. So we'll have one receiver that will come in, and what he is doing is he is coming through here and coming back, and then he will settle up somewhere in the middle. So let's just say that he's right here. Our quarterback will work on our drop back, and then he'll show hands and he'll catch it, and then he'll get a burst out. So that's what we'll first do as just the guys are getting used to it. I make them go at least one side down, one side back, and then settle before they do it. But eventually, they'll get it a couple times just to really, work on getting warmed up, because they know that they'll do that for 5 minutes. And so then that's one thing that we'll do. And so then the next level of this drill is, I saw this from Will Stein, and we're really going to pick it up because it's good for your stick, it's good for your curl route, and it's also good for snag. And so what it is you have a receiver, and you have your line over here, and you can have either stand-ups, or you can have use your receivers, and you make into groups. And so what will happen is you have the 3 bags that create your 2 different areas. And so then what you're going to do is one of the receivers is going to go and take away this area. So then you'll have either a coach or somebody, and what they'll do is they'll either pick this one, and that means that the receiver has to come through, come up and settle right into this crevice, or if the coach takes away that one, then the receiver knows that he's coming here and posting up, and the quarterback should then deliver the ball right in this area, and then they'll get a 5 to 10 yard burst. So that's the advancement of our settle news drill. And it's really good because you got to find those lanes, and based on your reading off of somebody. So this is one of those good drills that now, hey, you got nice and warmed up. You've done it for a week or two, and now to try and advance to that, to where the guys are reading and getting better at, some of the skill work that's going to take for inside of our offense of finding grass and sitting in the zones. It's a good way to advance that drill. So the next drill that we'll talk about is what we do for our run at me drill, which, in the air raid is a pat and go, but we've added a little bit different realm to that. So that'll be the next drill that we'll talk about, how we start off with it and then how we advance it. So the run at me drill, we'll start off with, we'll have our quarterbacks into groups, and then depending on how many receivers we have, they'll follow in a single file line. This is great for the quarterbacks to work on their accuracy, and good for the receivers. So what we'll do is we have a plethora of different throws. So they'll be about 10 yards apart. They'll get started. The quarterback will tell them go, and then they'll start throwing. So the first one is just nice and easy, right there at the chest. The next one will be at the face mask, and then high ball, and then they'll do a jump ball. So they'll do those 4 different types of balls. And then what we'll do is then you'll go back, and your 5th one will be dropping to your knees. So that will be your 5 normal throws for your quarterback and your receiver, and they'll just continue to run at it. Quarterback is putting a pretty good zip, and as they get going, they're warming up. The next wave of throws that they'll make is that then the receivers will break off here, and then they'll break off there. So you'll come back, you'll break off at about a 45-degree angle to the right, and then 45-degree angle to the left, and then you'll catch those. So that's your 7 throws. Well, then you'll have it to where we're going to flip it. And so then the receivers will now be on this side, and now they're running out this way, at about 50%. The first ball will be nice and normal, catching it there. So that's 8 throws. Then your 9th one will be catching it on a back shoulder. Okay, that's your 10th throw. Then it'll be about at a 50% where they're catching it right over that shoulder, and then they'll go over their other shoulder. So there's 12. And then the last one will be they'll have to catch, stop, and jump up and come back for the ball. And then to end it off, which will be the 15th throw, and they do all this and within 5 minutes because it is a boom, 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 keep going. Now you're going to get it to where you're running about 20, 30 yards, and the quarterback is letting you go out there and catch it. So that is our run at me drill. What you can do, what we'll advance to that, is that then we'll have, when you come back to it, is then you'll have another receiver and they'll be contesting it. All right, so the entire time as they're running, they're putting their hand in their face, and now you're adding to a distraction drill. So that will be our next way that you do the run at me drill. And now what they'll do is, once that guy goes, then they'll go. And so if you have two or three groups of your receivers, the other guys is pretty much becoming a distraction. And then once they catch it, trying to knock it out. So it's good for, you're working on, getting stronger hands. You're working on really focusing in on the ball coming in, and then having somebody distract and try to knock it out. So that's your run at me drill, and that's all of our pre-practice stuff. When we come back into it, our next drill that we'll talk about is our RPO and screen drill, where we get lots of throws for the quarterbacks, lots of reads, good mesh work between the quarterback and the running back. So we break our RPO screen drill into two different ways of doing it. The first 5 minutes of what we do is we really work on our quarterback and running back pitch relationship, not pitch relationship, but their mesh relationship, depending on what the run is. So right here, we're working on our GT. The coach is going to be that first read. All right, we all know if he crashes down, then the quarterback's going to keep and go. All right, if he comes up field, then they're working their mesh, because the quarterback at the entire time is watching the read guy, and then we have the running back create the mesh. So this is good responsibility, and being able to coach up for the running backs to really be the ones working that mesh, because the quarterback has the ball out there and is reading. Well, then the second time, so they'll go the first time where they're reading that. The second rep for the quarterback on this one will be, it's an automatic, coach went down. Okay, so now we're pulling it, and now you're reading coach number 2. If the coach number 2 attacks, all right, then you're throwing out to whether we're running a smoke, arrow, bubble, whatever RPO you want, depending on what receiver is going. If the coach attacks the receiver, now that quarterback, as soon as he feels like the shoulders have turned, he's now going to get out, and he's going to attack and run. So this is good for your quarterback. So now you're working on the mesh, and then that second rep, after they come back from that, so we just ask if he pulls it and runs, it's just a 5-yard burst. Then he comes back, and so this is good for in game, because it's one of those things of, hey man, you're gonna get the play call, you're gonna go, you might have to run it a second play. So this is good for them to get their conditioning, and then the running back will come back through. So and then the quarterbacks will rotate after a second rep, and we're working on throwing on the run, working on our mechanics of getting out after the read, and so it's very quick live reps. And so, this is where we have our coaches really help give these looks. And like I said, first start off really nice and easy reads. Then once they start getting comfortable, then you can start working on, the surf technique and guys slow playing, all that. But the first time you're running this, make sure that it's nice and easy, so that they're getting reps. The next thing that we'll do is we'll talk then about the second part of our RPO and screen period. So then the next thing that we're doing is we're working on when we're doing a second level read. So like if our receivers right here are running a speed out, you'll have a coach of dictating when to throw it for the quarterback, so that we can work on that timing. So right here, our first thing would be our speed out. And so the receiver gets 1 rep, he gets that, and then we go to a second receiver. So right here, the quarterback, the coach is giving that, and as soon as he's starting off like 6-7 yards off, and we see that he's sinking out, then he'll throw that speed out, and the entire time he's working on his mesh of reading that second level, whether it's the corner or then we bring into the backer. So this would be him acting like he's the corner, and then this would be our backside or play side linebacker. And so then that's when, like from the outside, so then say that number 2 is running his slant route. So he's coming here and getting deep. Well, what we're going to do with this coach is that he's going to be, hey, he's that run defender, he's that extra hat. As soon as he's gearing towards trying to go into the box and take away the run, that's when a quarterback knows that he's got to come off the ride and he's got to throw. And then the receiver knows, hey, this is the grass that I should be looking for based on, that's what our RPO is called. So that's for the slant on that side. And then you could do the same thing for all your receivers on the inside. So, and what we'll do is the quarterback gets 5 quick throws. So it's boom, throw it, and then we're up to the next receiver, lines up, and we go. And if you want, the next advancement of this is to then you put a receiver group over here. All right, and you can have each one of them doing 2 or 3. So then, now this guy is being the read guy, and he's running his speed out. So that's the next way that we do it, and it's all going to be about the reads. And like I said, you want to have 5 quick throws, boom, 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 to really have that quarterback. And every time he's working on that, so you don't have to have the running backs in this one, but you're working on that mesh ride and being able to throw either without the laces and working on your footwork of, almost like that shortstop, and working on that and trying to get that arm angle perfect and all that. And so it's all those reps in order to make the RPOs kind of go. And then the other thing that we'll do with this is we'll start off with those throws, or we'll start off where this receiver is actually just, he's doing his smoke route. So the quarterback's catching, throwing, and going quick. So we'll mix it up to where, if we have a certain amount of receivers, the first couple are just boom, catching, quick throw. And that's another one that we'll do with our quarterback indies of he's catching, no laces, and throwing, catches, no laces, throwing, and he's getting 3 or 4 reps throwing those screens, those plays that have to be really quick out there. And it's all about making sure that we get our lower body and our upper body all going the same direction, throwing without the laces and being as quick as possible, and then also knowing your body and having less motion and being able to have a nice accurate pass. So that's our RPO screen stuff. The next thing we'll talk about is going to be our receiver screen drills. So our next drill is we'll set up, whether we work on our bubble or arrow or smoke, we'll set up and it'll be a 2-for-2 drill. So you'll have your receiver out here with a corner, and then safety off or a linebacker off, and then you'll have a receiver on the bubble. And we'll also do it out of trips to get that same type of a look. But what we're teaching our receivers is the one that's catching is they get those reps of running a good screen drill and not half effort, just tossing the ball. He's catching it and he's going. And this is without our quarterbacks, or we'll split the quarterbacks, because as you can tell with what we're doing is we're doing this screen drill while we're doing also inside run. So it's our first 20 minutes are all about our RPO, our screens, for our entire offense, and that's what our offense line's emphasis is. You go inside run, and then you'll see that we'll switch into, because we try to go O-line indies, then a group, O-line indies, group, O-line team, O-line, so that they get plenty of indies to work on, so we look nice and crisp, because you all know the O-line kind of takes you to as far as you possibly can go. And so what we're doing here is this is our next level of it. A lot of times this will just be another receiver when we first start off with it, and they're working on the block, getting their hands in, not getting it outside, and really kind of being very smart about how they approach the cornerback. You don't want to just shoot out there and then miss them. So it's one of those things of kind of almost like a mirror drill, but we're trying to be a little bit more aggressive and getting a little bit more out of it. And we want to drive them, because we teach our smoke and our bubble is that the receiver's trying to get down the sidelines and trying to get at least 5 yards quick. So we're trying to get this and driving the receiver, or the receiver's trying to drive that corner in. But if it's one of those things that they're having him come down and having him take away that, then hey, you just drive him wherever he's willing to go, take him to the bench. Same thing here. If this corner keeps backing out, and let's say that he's the one shooting, that's what the best part about this drill is. He's taking him, and so he's kind of throttling down, and he's figuring out who the most dangerous man. If it's the safety because he's flying down, then it's right there, and now you're one-on-one, and now you have one-on-one and based on the leverage of that corner. So it's teaching that receiver that's blocking the most dangerous man, especially when it comes to the smoke, and depending on, because if you're throwing smoke, the corner's usually playing off, which means the safety's probably still off as well. And he's going to try and figure out on a read who's the most dangerous man to take. And you're also teaching a receiver to then read off of a block, because, they don't get a lot of that. And so they're looking at how to read off a block, cut off the receiver's butt, and, get the 5 yards, because our screens, RPO type stuff is an extension of the run game. We've been really good at it, and has allowed our offense to always constantly move. And so we're going to take pride for 10 minutes. They'll go with all of our DBs and our DB coaches, and really work on that. And so then it's also a chance to where our DBs are getting that work as well, and they're wrapping up and they're working on their alley drill and working on their pursuit angle. So it's a way to work both groups as best as possible. So that is what we're doing for our screen drill. The next thing that we'll talk about, and it'll be our last thing because the rest of it is our team and our group here type stuff, but we're gonna go talk about how we do routes on air to begin with, and then how we're gonna make a little bit of adjustments so that the receivers and quarterbacks are on the same page and using those 10 minutes. So I've done a video with our drone footage of what our routes on air and how we do it. So, we go through here and let's just say that we're running, our snag. And so then, he has his corner and he's running his snag, and doing the same thing on the backside. So that's awesome. We have done that for a while, but now we're really trying to hone in and get a little bit more advancement of the drill. So what we'll do with that, especially like if we're working snag, is that we will have a coach. All right, and so for snag, we're trying to read this flat defender right here. So what we'll do is, no matter what, the quarterbacks they know who they're throwing to, but to help them and to help the receivers get a good look. So we're gonna be right here as like that flat defender. And so all the quarterbacks know who they're throwing to, doesn't matter, but it's to work on the eyes. So if we're running our snag, all right, and we get our foot fire and now we're reading, our eyes are on this coach. So then if that coach is got a flat defender and he's carrying out, what we're teaching our receivers, as soon as he crosses his face to stop, and then that quarterback knows to throw it. So it's really to kind of work on that snag route more necessarily. But then we'll also we can switch it up, and that we can then put a coach here, all right, and if they're playing a little bit harder, all right, and he's staying in here, then he knows when to throw the arrow and when to throw it flat, type of stuff. So what we're trying to do is, all right, I already did routes on air. We, completed all of our passes. The next advancement of that drill, whether a week or two into that, is we're gonna have those coaches kind of simulate that look. So right there would be one way that we would do our snag. The next thing that we would do is really working with stick, especially if like you're getting that cover too, and this corner is sitting. So now this receiver's not just running a fade and going half effort. Okay, he's really getting out of there, especially if we know a team that we're going to see cover two. And our quarterback and him are going to be on that page of, hey, this is about that hole shot. You're going to be looking for that ball right there. And because he's sitting right there, but now, maybe that next rep, he's kind of backing out, but he'll stop so he can still catch that. But it's for our quarterback to get those eyes of, hey, he's staying right there. Now I know I got a hole shot. I got to, speed up, and this is where I'm going to hit it. Okay, he's bailing out now. Now you're really, kind of just working on that fade ball, but you're still working with a coach running beside him, type of thing for us. And that's one thing that we really had to get a lot better at. Okay, the next advancement that we'll do then is kind of our mesh drill. And what we'll do is that we'll take away two quarterbacks and our outsides. All right. So then we're working our mesh drill. Okay, and we're setting it there, getting underneath, all that good stuff. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have coaches sit there and really work on it. And so what he is doing is he's got his eyes on him, and then this receiver has his eyes on this coach. All right, so then we're working on, okay, if they drop out, okay, where to sit. If they're expanding out, okay, sit right there. If they're playing man, is read that grass and either come in here, or you're working on expanding, cutting it up, and the quarterback is possibly having to roll out, or he's hitting you right there. So we'll do that on working our mesh drill and making the players read. So you'll have where he's dropping out, and if he's just sitting right there, it's one of those things that if he's just going to sit there, that as soon as we clap our hands, we're trying to expand to the grass, because this receiver's normally running it out. So you're there, and now you're kind of reading where's that safety, and then what did that flat defender do? If that flat defender went and took that swing, now you're just trying to win that matchup and find that green grass based off that safety. So that's what we'll also do our routes on air when we're working our mesh and shallow cross, especially for our meshes. We'll have that, and then what we'll do is we'll go 10 yards out, and now we'll have our other outside quarterbacks. All right, and then we'll put our receivers, and they'll be almost back to back, and he's running that 8 to 10 yard out, and we're doing that on both sides. And what we'll do is, because coaches are working there, the quarterbacks and receivers, that's just we're working on our speed of that. And then what we'll do is, because we run mesh rail, once they get a couple of reps, then they'll come in here and get there and they'll work their OTB route. And then that's one of those things that what we'll do is we'll bring these guys and they'll run shallow cross. All right. And then what we'll have is the coaches will come down here and now they're working on trying to find that OTB range. So what everybody knows in the air raid, it's a lot of finding grass, finding the holes in the zone and kind of reading that. And so that's one of the things that we try to do with our routes on air is once we feel like, after about, 2 or 3 weeks of really honing in and running that, especially like then if with our younger guys, get them a bunch of reps of catching on air, catching the ball and getting 10 yards. But for the older guys and trying to really speed up and make sure that they understand it, we'll put our coaches, and it's not just going to be lazy snapping and anything like that. Our coaches are going to be, actually help and interact, or if we have managers or whatever, and really help with getting game-like situations and game-like reps to help us get better on the drill, since we were talking about just doing routes on air. And so what you'll see is every one of our kind of pod work that we do with our quarterbacks, receivers is we'll get to where we're doing it on air and we'll get really good with our chemistry, but then it's like, all right, let's get to that next level and be a little bit of competitiveness, and we'll do some one-on-ones, do 7-on-7 type stuff with those guys. But we want many live reps that we possibly can and game-like reps, and not just sitting there and flicking the ball. We want to really push these guys. We'll have the quarterbacks, what I like to do is, counting off how many did they get, and taking accountability of who didn't complete a pass, it's one of those things of you got to compete. And we have a lot of quarterbacks looking to be that starter this year. And then like when we go into our quarterback drills, that's what we're doing. And we're putting the pressure on them. Like the other day, we worked through our drill and working through our eyes on shallow cross and through mesh, and it really helped us when we went to our scrimmage. But we completed like 21 straight balls of hitting the net right in the center, and they're going through their reads based on what I do and give them. So we're putting our lower body and our upper body all going in the same direction of going through our reads, boom, 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 and throwing it based on what I'm doing. So it's those reaction type drills. So hope you enjoyed these. My goal is I want to try and get all these filmed. These different drills, so when people ask, I can send 5-10 minutes of it, so you can see us in live doing that. But hit me up if you have any questions. If anybody has any questions about doing install and all that, I'm always happy to answer questions. Excited about doing that part. I take a lot of pride in our organization so that our practices go by quick and without any problems, and we stay on schedule, and we get as many reps as possible. But having Memorial Day, being a military kid, it means a lot to me on this day. And so that's why I'm wearing the Army shirt for this one. But I hope you enjoy it with your loved ones. If those that have lost a loved one, thank you for your sacrifice as a family member. And your loved one, fought and died for our country, and so that we're able to enjoy everything that we have in this country. So thank you for that sacrifice, and sorry that you had a loved one pass. But anyways, please share these videos. Hit me up on Twitter. Willing to always help out. But until then, until the next video, hope everybody does well.